All right, this is the final part of a 5-part series. This is part 5, what we've all been waiting for, the final product. Within all the parts, you can see that retaining wall go up. You can see the concrete that we're seeing right here on the lower screen, that go in. And it was crucial that this made a perfect square right here when we formed this up, because it makes it a lot easier to start laying the pavers with fewer cuts. So we're going to be doing the herringbone pattern. It's a 3-piece pattern, 3 different size and shapes of pavers will be going in here. It's called the Villa. It's from Orco. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going down a total of 8 inches below the top of that concrete. Then we're going to have 5 inches of road base and 1 inch of sand. Then the pavers are 2 1/4 inch, and that'll sit on top of that. Also, we'll be putting a weed fabric in here. Those string lines are set to elevation so that they can just measure down from that line and get the right depth without over or under digging. And that's crucial when you're hand digging, especially. You don't want to over dig. Here's the weed fabric going in, doing about 4-inch overlaps on it, dropping a few loads of base here and there to hold that fabric down. Couple nails through the weed fabric just to stabilize it. When you're pushing a wheelbarrow over it, it has a tendency to want to move. Another way you can do that is start the nearest side, spread it, and then roll over the base to get to the furthest point. But we're using another system here that's going to probably work out pretty good. Here's the laser level, just checking the elevations. Basically, the whole thing is going to slope towards the concrete area because that's where the drains are. And you can see the drain install in the earlier parts of this series. All this base material is basically ground up old concrete and asphalt. The homeowner is actually out here shoveling the base into the wheelbarrows with us. These particular pavers are 2 1/4 inch thick. So once you get your base within 3 inches of the surface, you're ready to compact and then add your sand. Then you're ready to lay some pavers. The nice thing about laying the pavers is when you start dropping them down on the sand, they don't have to be perfectly flush at that point, because that plate compactor you see right there is going to smash them all down flush. Here's the pallets. It took 6 pallets to do that area. We had some excess pallets left over. We didn't get the correct amount based on the percentages they provided us at Orco. Because you have to, for every pattern, there's a certain percentage of each size of that particular paver you're going to need. So since we had extra, we ended up doing that little driveway addition. Now here's the sand going in. We need about 1 inch of sand. So we're just going to lay some 1-inch pipe or 3/4 inch pipe, and then we're just going to screed off of that, right off of the base. And then we'll have a perfectly uniform 1-inch sand layer. Okay, there's some of those screed pipes we're talking about. Those are actually steel 1-inch, specifically designed for laying pavers and screeding sand. You can see that we're rodding it off with a couple different size levels there, 6-footer and a 4-footer. You can see how that pattern lays out on a 45-degree pattern. And you see there we're using a rubber mallet. That way you don't damage the pavers when you're, hitting them around. In between all these joints of these pavers, it's going to be a polymeric sand. And what that does, you sweep it around, work it into all the cracks and crevices, then wash it in, and it actually hardens up in all the seams. Just keeps your pavers a little bit more stable. So something you might want to consider, when you're doing this type of retaining wall, and you're going to be running pavers up against it, and you are pouring concrete at the same time in different areas, you may want to run like a mow strip along the base of that retaining wall, so you have a nice straight edge to run your pavers up against. Because in this particular case, you're going to have to do a lot of custom cutting to meet flush with all those ins and outs of that retaining. So that's another option to do something like this. So on this end, since it's not bound in, we're going to lay a little concrete down initially to wet set the soldier course in. That'll help hold that entire field area from shifting and separating. So when you're compacting this, you can put a layer of sand down on the pavers to kind of, protect pavers from getting hit by a plate compactor. It also, they make a rubberized pad that you can put on the bottom of your compactor and run it over with that, and that helps. Or you can just put about a half-inch layer over the whole package with sand, and then run your plate compactor over that. It'll settle, knock everything down, kind of vibrates the sand into the nooks and crannies, levels up all the pavers. Now this is some polymeric sand, so the difference between just regular sand and this is that when water hits this particular mixture, it's actually going to set and get a little hard. I don't know what the PSI is on it, but it's nothing like concrete, or not even as hard as mortar, but it's something that stays in the joint a little bit better than just some loose sand. Typically, before they had the polymeric sand, you just threw sand down, jiggled it into the cracks, and then you just hit it with like a penetrating sealer to kind of stabilize that sand. But now they've kind of eliminated that step, and this particular sand just gets hard by itself. I don't know what they threw in there. Maybe they threw some cement in there with it. Very little. Maybe it's some kind of a polymer. Not real sure. So initially you don't want to put too much water. You just want enough water to soak into that sand and let it set. Once it sets, then you can really hammer it with water and it's not going to affect your sand anymore. Polymeric sand. So this is a 5-part series, and within those 5 parts we showed all the demo of this entire backyard, a couple tree stumps, grading, joining the concrete, placing the concrete, building the retaining wall. A lot of different phases to this project. If you're interested in any of those, even the drain systems in here as well, you can all these videos are backlinked, so you should see a link in the description below going back to the previous video, and so on and so forth. But there's what it looks like. That's with the water setting on there, so that's a nice little wet look. Maybe you like that look, so you could throw some sealer on there and then you maintain that bright shininess. Or if you like the dull look, you could just throw some penetrating sealer on there. But any kind of sealer you throw on is going to help preserve the color in your pavers. It's going to help it from staining, spilling oils, greases, barbecue sauces, wines, all that stuff stains concrete. But sealers help prevent all those different things that hit the concrete from actually soaking into the concrete, making it a permanent stain. So sealer is always good on any type of surface concrete, because pavers are concrete and they absorb things. That's why I recommend sealer, especially for new work. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button. That way you get notified on our next upload.